Hey drumming world! So in some previous videos I've talked about some drum dampening gels such as Moongel and Drumdots. I've talked about how these are really good options on being able to control overtones, almost acting as like a gate or an expander for your snare. But today I thought I would really do a deep dive comparing these two brands of gels. So let's jump into it. So before I start applying any of the gels, I do want to give you a baseline as far as how the snare sounds right now. This is a DW ply maple snare. It's got reinforcing hoops, 14-inch, 5.5-inch depth. I got on it a Sennheiser E604, and it's just going to a plain vanilla preamp. I don't have any EQs or compressors or any plugins or anything on it. So this is just how the snare sounds all by itself. So you can hear there's a lot of like extra ring, extra overtones. And in fact, if I just let my thumb gently rest on the snare, you can hear how it starts to kind of control the sound. All right, so now that we have a baseline, I'm gonna start off with the Moongel. So the Moongels, they all come in these little packs here. By the way, these are really convenient for once you empty one of these out, if you need to store your earplugs in something, as my bass player discovered for me. So as you can see, they come in a little pack. Now this is actually one tricky thing with them in here like this. It's a little bit of a pain when you first want to separate it. You have to kind of peel it away. Okay, here we go. I usually put the Moongel maybe around the 5 o'clock position. From the inside part of the rim, I probably put it like a good width of my thumb. So just kind of placing this in here, just eyeballing it. Now I can tell you that the Moongel is really sticky, which is good. You want these things to stay on when you're playing out live. So you can hear it's really cut down on the overtones without me having to permanently keep my thumb on it. I'll peel the Moongel off and put it back on so you can hear how it sounds. So you can see it really cuts the sound back a lot. With the Moongel, I definitely have to get it a lot closer to the edge because I feel once you get in a bit, it's actually cutting back too much. One thing to also note, sometimes you might have seen I was playing around with the gel. Sometimes you get a little bit of a pocket of air underneath, and it's not staying on as well. So you have to kind of play with it to get the air out. So let's move on to the Drumdots and see how these sound by themselves. I'm gonna start off with one of the large pieces of Drumdots. Now these come in these separate little plastic containers and they're mounted separately. So unlike the Moongels, which you have to be kind of careful to try to peel off, these are a little bit easier to get out of the case one at a time. So right off the bat, I think the Drumdot doesn't feel as sticky as the Moongel. So it could be that as a result that the Moongel is going to have better life, that it's going to stay stuck longer. When you're first dealing with this, you can kind of take it off and reapply it as many times as you want. Once you find the spot that you want, you should really keep it in that spot. Otherwise, you're gonna have you're gonna kind of wear it out too much. This doesn't really have the air bubble issue that the Moongel has, so that's good. But when I first put it on, it doesn't seem to be fully stuck. So as you can see, I'm kind of playing with it a little bit here to push it in. As far as the amount of overtones it's reducing, I'd say it's fairly comparable. Moongel is, I'd say maybe the total surface area is probably pretty close compared to the two. Obviously they're different shapes, so it's hard to tell. And I think, not that it matters too much, but height-wise, they seem to be about the same as well. So let's swap between the Drumdot and the Moongel now. So my impression here on that comparison is that the Drumdots seem to cut down a lot less on the overtones. So if you're looking to do a light touch, I think the Drumdot might be a little bit of a winner there. At the very least, if you're using the Moongel, you're gonna have to get a lot closer to the edge. Now again, the Moongel is a lot stickier, so you're gonna probably get better life out of it compared to the Drumdot, which does not seem to be nearly as sticky. Okay, so next I'm gonna open up this little pack of the mini Drumdots. These are basically just smaller versions of the large Drumdot. I'm gonna throw one of these on, see how it sounds, and then I'll A/B the small one and the big one. So for me, the mini Drumdot doesn't seem to cut back enough on the overtones, unless I get way close to the middle. So my personal preference is probably when I do the A/B, my guess is that I'm gonna like the larger Drumdot instead. I do, as a note, use the small Drumdots on my floor toms just to kind of cut back a little bit on the extra ringing. But on the snare, it's definitely the case that the small Drumdot doesn't seem to quite cut it. But let me do an A/B between the large and the small and see what we think. Yeah, so for my personal preference, I do prefer the larger Drumdot. I think that the small one is just, it doesn't quite cut back enough for me. I might pull the Drumdot closer to the edge, a little closer to the edge with the larger one. But again, the small one is just, it doesn't quite do it. So one last little comparison I want to go through. I do see a lot of people online talking about cutting a piece of Moongel in half if it's too much for you. So I'm gonna cut this down the middle so it's closer to being a square. I'm gonna compare that against the small Drumdot. So I'd say that the half piece of Moongel is kind of comparable to the drum dot. One thing to note about the drum dots is that they seem to keep their form pretty well. They all come as really these perfect little circles. The Moongels come as these rectangles, but they're not exactly totally uniform. As you can see when I'm hitting it, sometimes the gels on either one, it comes up a little bit. So what are your thoughts on using gels to provide dampening on your snare? Do you like using Moongel or Drumdots, or is there some other brand you like? Or do you just prefer to throw on some gaffer's tape? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe.